Hello. It's approximately 4,000 degrees outside here in Washington right now. So if I look sweaty or a few people are saying, hey, why haven't you streamed lately? Shut up. No, I will not stream. I will not deal with chat in this weather. The blue light behind me is actually the creeping flames outside encroaching on the studio. Fire when it's really hot, it gets blue. That's for my fellow gas range users instead of the virgin electric range. Let's just get on with the content. Okay, anyway, never one to let terrible weather keep me down. I was looking at Michael Knowles' upload page here, and we got some fire content. The last time I went over some of his stuff, I looked at it and I thought, this feels kind of odd. He was going over this video and it was like, yeah, here it is. Viral TikTok pansexual explanation leaves Michael dot 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 speechless. And I remember the content of that video being so asinine and so obviously like very online children on TikTok talking to other very online children in TikTok. And it feels like he didn't even really have an argument there. But it seems like this is something that he's trying to kick into a little more because a lot of these videos are just like, I don't know, I feel like I'm being ripped off a little bit here. Yeah. LOL. Woke commie teacher freaks out. 4 minutes, got a little TikTok symbol here. Same TikTok here. Insane. Comforting her crying white daughter is racist. And there's one down here. I think I actually recognize this. Viral TikTok declares he, correct in the title there, bit of an editor's mistake, is a man. And I think I've seen this. It's like kind of a cringy video of like a trans guy announcing that he's trans, and then his friends rush up to support him, and there's not really anything wrong with the video, I guess, apart from it showing that young people can be overeager and sometimes a little awkward in how they express themselves, which, um, yeah. I mean, we can see it, I don't know why I'm not just showing you. I'm just assuming everyone else has seen it. Hold on. Never actually looked at a video with that chat here before. I'm lonely. Hold on, look.
I use he, they pronouns, and I'm gonna go by Theo. Yeah.
He, they. I don't know if it's non-binary masculine. He, they pronouns. Yeah, just see, and then everyone cheers.
I told my mom today,
Look,
and I have to go home every day.
it's sweet. Someone runs up, and then I think he says that his mom doesn't understand.
Be called my dead name.
Yeah.
And have she, her pronouns used every time I go home. And no one realizes how hurtful it is. It's like a slap in the face.
So I don't know if this is some kind of like student group or there's an adult right here. I don't really know the context. It doesn't really matter because there's nothing actually wrong with the video. I mean, this is actually something that I notice. This has been a long-standing strategy of people on the right. And by long-standing, I mean hundreds of years old, probably more than that. It's that when there's something they don't like, I mean, sometimes in this case, it's trans teenagers or whatever. And sometimes it's the very existence of black people, whatever. When there's something that a conservative doesn't like, very often, instead of arguing the point, they'll try to find examples of people from the group they don't like being as like socially objectable as possible. So, for example, transphobes love to do this. Okay, you see this all the time on like turf pages, right? What they'll do is they'll pretend they have like these really well thought out, grounded arguments against transgenderism. But then when you look at the content they produce, they'll find like an unattractive trans woman and just drag her for like 20 minutes. And none of the arguments that they supposedly have are present in this dragging. It's just being really, really like mean. And look, hey, nothing wrong with being mean to people you don't like, okay? But it's if the reason you don't like them is because they're part of a minority group, and if you are pretending you have like good arguments against them, but you you never actually use those arguments in the actual demonstration of your antipathy towards that group, and it's always just belittling and mocking their appearance. It kind of shows that you don't actually have those arguments or that you don't really believe in them. It's kind of like a Mott and Bailey, The actual stuff they do is just like harassment, but then if challenged on that, they'll back up to like a series of very well thought out arguments they don't actually ever use or talk about. As a general rule, if a person claims to have like well reasoned arguments about any socially conservative position, but then you take a look at their social media feed and it's just vitriol, they don't care about the arguments either. They made up the arguments beforehand. It reminds me a little bit of some of the like the far right, like race realist, white nationalist types. Well, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm not racist. Actually, I have a highly principled set of positions on race, and I don't hate black people. I just think that we all have biological and cultural differences that need to be respected." And then you take a look at like their Twitter profile, and it's just like N word, N word, N word. This George Floyd deserved what he got and worse. Blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well you don't care about the arguments then. The arguments are something that you found afterwards to post hoc justify your seething hatred. Anyway, why are we talking? I don't know why I'm still talking. I still feel weird, we feel weird without chat here. You know what? I want to learn about this woke commie teacher. I want to learn, what's going on? They look Michael Knowles, he looks happy here. The woke commie teacher looks unhinged in these cultivated screenshots. So let's see. What do we got? We have a TikTok with 226 likes. I'm nowhere near the size of Michael Knowles, and to my credit, when I'm finding stuff to rag on, I usually try to find stuff that I feel like is a little relevant or representative, but all right. Yeah, so let's not
I can't
critiquing
teach anything
PR.
divisive. I can't teach critical race theory. And I can't teach about racial equity. This is a call to action, teachers. We got to stand up and fight for our kids because this is bullshit.
Here's my call to action. Fire that teacher. The teachers are not.
Wait, hold on. Wait, nothing they said was communist. Well, okay, hold on. Something that's very important to point out with regards to this teacher, okay? Very, very important. Unless you are a college professor, you already weren't teaching critical race theory, okay? Just again, to be perfectly clear, because the conservatives, there's this protracted effort on their part to make critical race theory mean everything. Like saying that America's founding was rooted in racism. Well, that's critical race theory. No, it's not. No, it's not. Abolitionists were saying that 150 years ago. They weren't critical race theorists. That's actually a very common criticism. Oh, okay. Saying that that people of in America internalize racial biases and that we all have to confront those biases. That's critical race theory. No, it's not. No, that's not critical race theory. No. There are critical race theorists who believe that, but Hitler drank water. I don't necessarily know if the association there is clear. That comparison made it sound like I was comparing critical race theorists to Hitler. If only chat were here to roast me for that. Just imagine on the side of the screen a bunch of Pepes. Mask off, slipped. You understand what I mean. Just interpret my argument in good faith, please, like you always do.
Not happy. Teachers all over the country are not happy right now. Forget about Ron DeSantis for a second. They're not happy that the right is calling out critical race theory.
Nobody's teaching
There was
critical
one teacher,
race theory.
just went viral on TikTok, who expressed her anti-racist.
Wait, did he just say viral?
There was one teacher, just went viral on
That TikTok had like 200 likes. Maybe there's a future. Maybe the next TikTok will go viral.
TikTok, who expressed her anti-racist fury
Thanks.
that conservatives and parents are finally asserting their rights over their kids' education.
Again, this is no, this is the same TikTok with 226 likes. Bro, Michael, I don't know what kind of numbers you're hitting on TikTok. I'm not saying I'm huge or anything, but that is not viral, actually. And it looks like she's getting ratio there, just judging by the number of comments. So, yeah, this isn't viral, This reminds me, like this tweet's been blowing up the internet. It's like a 60 like tweet from some random Twitter account saying something abhorrent. Like, okay, you can disagree with the sentiment if you like, but don't lie about the virality. Unless, again, maybe in the future it pops up, but I doubt it.
This is what's bullshit. Today is the first time our country has recognized Juneteenth. It's a national holiday.
True.
And yet I'm getting ready to go back to school in the fall. And my governor has put into place some...
My governor. So I'm assuming this person lives in Florida because DeSantis recently passed into law some restrictions on... Yeah, okay, so...
ridiculous legislation that many governors across the country have put into place, such as I can't teach anything divisive, I can't teach critical race theory, and I can't teach
We already saw
about
this part.
racial equity. This is at all public schools, colleges, and universities. So, teachers, in the past,
We already saw this.
we've been activists. After this show of last year, we really need to stand up and do what's right for our kids right now. So, this is a call to action, teachers. We got to stand up
I just had my finger leaning on the space bar. I am a professional.
and fight for our kids because this is bullshit. We can't lie to them.
Here's my call to action. Fire that teacher.
Wait, you already...
That teacher should lose her job.
It's a 4-minute video.
But
You
Michael,
don't need a
academic
stinger
freedom.
at the beginning.
Academic freedom does not mean what you think it means.
Oh, actually, I like how... So first of all, the laws that are being passed, like with DeSantis, are very, very explicitly like a political effort at silencing free speech. DeSantis is very big on silencing free speech. And this guy's saying that a professor should be fired, not for breaking the law, but for disagreeing with the law that a conservative governor put into place. That's directly what he's saying right here. That she should be fired, not for doing anything illegal, but just for simply saying that they should protest against that law. Michael Knowles, why do you hate the Constitution? I'll ask him that in person one day. Michael, I will find out why you hate the Constitution so much. I will find out, okay? I want an answer.
I'm a proponent of academic freedom in the sense that I believe scholars ought to be able to study what they want to study.
Oh.
But I'm an opponent of academic freedom if what that means is teachers are allowed to teach whatever they want. They're not.
So actually, the way it works is that teachers generally have to follow a broad curriculum, and they're given leeway within that within certain parameters to adjust the class material as per their preferences. If we're talking about collegiate studies, then historically, actually, a tremendous amount of leeway has been deferred to professors to get them. They can essentially present the information how they want, and teach what they want if they think it's relevant to the course materials. So, depending on what we're talking about here, what Michael Knowles is talking about is a pretty firm rejection of what's basically like Enlightenment era values on education. You know, but he's perfectly comfortable, by the way, with like politicians deciding what your kids get taught. So, yeah, it's significantly better.
That's not their job.
What?
Teachers are required, the job description of a teacher is to teach the curriculum. It's to teach what the school has decided ought to be taught to the students. And who...
Not necessarily the school. Sure. But who decides the curriculum? This is kind of like arguing against the point nobody's making. He's like, well, I don't think teachers should be able to teach whatever. They should teach within the curriculum. But that's the argument the teacher in the TikTok was making. That it's bullshit that the state is prohibiting curriculums from including that material. So, yeah, she knows. She's agreeing.
Who decides then what ought to be taught? Well, it's the parents have some say, I think. The trustees have some say. If it's a public school, the people have some say. The teachers have some say in the way it's taught, and school administrators do as well. But it's not just the case that these radical leftists have the right to indoctrinate our students.
Wow. All right, we threw a bunch of terminology in there. So first of all, the teacher wasn't making the argument that they should have the sole and single right to determine what kids are taught. They were making the argument that they dislike the direction things are going now, and they should protest against it, which, again, is their right. Michael Knowles is not only in favor of, but has actively recommended parents protest against the teaching of... I mean, it's Michael Knowles. He probably doesn't want them to even learn about slavery. In the past, you know? So clearly he's in favor of the idea that if a group is unhappy with the way the system is currently organized, they should protest against it. But when a teacher does that, then it's actually radical leftist trying to indoctrinate your children. So don't be fooled by the language here. Michael Knowles is very explicitly against not only the balance of power in the situation, but against the very concept of the First Amendment. What he's talking about here the idea that like public educators should be fired for expressing disapproval of a political change to a long-standing existing curriculum. That's that's wow, that's pretty 1984, my dude.
In insane theories
Ah,
and insane ideologies,
he doesn't know
such
what
as
CRT
critical
is.
race theory, such as everything else that she's describing.
So, wait, such as critical race theory, comma, such as everything else. He has no idea what he's talking about. Critical race theory is such a meaningless buzzword nowadays. It's used by the right. They will say it means absolutely anything. All these insane ideologies our children are being taught, such as critical race theory and others. Like, oh yeah, you're very tapped into the language being used these days on campuses.
That woman has no right to do that. That woman has no right to her job. And if she is now
Oh.
calling for activism and equity, oh, these are all just code words for radical leftism.
Ah, okay. Please, can somebody explain to me, please, kindly, okay, how a man who believes activism is a code word for radical leftism can possibly call himself like an American? Not even like a person who values American principles. Like, how are you? Is there a monarchy somewhere in the world that you would feel more comfortable living within, Michael Knowles? Like, seriously, this guy. Whenever I watch content from this guy, we've watched, I don't know, 4 or 5 videos. Every time I watch content from Michael Knowles, I genuinely feel like he's like 2 or 3 steps away from like pulling out like the skull of a slave that his great grandfather like owned and like pointing to dimples on the skull shape. You know, I like some of the stuff he says betrays a preposterously far right worldview, and nobody else ever talks about it. I never see Michael Knowles get like counted alongside all of the other insanely far right conservative commentators who have been sort of normalized by their relatively sane counterparts. You know, I think that a lot of people like for example, I think that this guy's way crazier than Shapiro, but I think people kind of fit them in the same purview. I mean, they work together at the Daily Wire, so I guess there's that too.
I guess the activism she's talking about is actually just a synonym for it.
Ah,
Then she doesn't have a right to be in the classroom.
ah.
Conservatives need to be willing to use our political power, also known as the government, to go in and exercise our political right.
To silence and fire people who say they want to change things the same way you've suggested parents speak up when they want things changed. Should we no longer listen to the voices of parents when they have a problem with the curriculum? I mean, do keep that in mind, by the way. Like, it doesn't just stop with the professor, you know. Say that somebody like Governor DeSantis passes a law that prohibits the teaching of this or that. If parents protested against that, Michael Knowles would not say, ah, well, I had a problem with these radical far left activist professors, but if the parents have a problem with this law, then I respect their right to. No, 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 no. Michael Knowles would be praising the governor, like sending in a SWAT team to break up like parent protests, and would probably call them like anti-American commies. This is not about some indifferent belief in the right for parents to determine the education of their children. It is an extremely dogmatic attempt to, well, essentially to ban the teaching of anti-racism in schools, which is where they're going with all of this. All of the quote-unquote patriotic education that has been sort of, this is a long-standing thing here in America, but especially it's been ramping up in the past 5 years. All of it has been more or less organized around the principle that children should be taught to be as mindlessly patriotic as possible. And one of the ways to facilitate this is to not teach them any of the country's failings or flaws throughout history, which means inevitably downplaying or completely ignoring issues like slavery or apartheid or the Jim Crow era, usually framing these things as like tiny inconveniences or bumps that have been, gotten over. And the reason why they do that, of course, is because it delegitimizes any real existing arguments today that those policies in the past have had consequences. If you can deny to an entire generation of American children that there really ever was a problem with how we treated black people in this country, then all of the arguments that the positions black people are in today are in large part a product of that history kind of fall flat, oh, the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow is the reason why black people have a lower income on average? How can that be? Those were I read in my class, those barely even have slavery. Like, oh, so wasn't slavery just like when you had like a job, but they also gave you like a room and board? Oh, that must have like they'll do that. There are probably people who already believe this. There are definitely people who already believe this.
Okay, we need to be able to go in and kick teachers like that out of the classroom. I would strongly recommend a radical leftist teacher who is calling for activism and who's calling for the pushing of leftist ideology in contravention of the law to be fired.
It's in contravention of the law. So keep in mind, again, he's literally like suggesting that protesting laws is the same as breaking those laws. That's essentially what he's saying right now. Very, very authoritarian, this man. He leaves his political opponents speechless because he would have them killed if he could and silences them if he can't.
That's a good idea. Hey, I'm glad you liked that clip. We got a whole show. The title is Using Government for Good. You can get...
Because there's a book in the corner. See, it says... Oh, anyway. So, long story short, Michael Knowles, like all conservatives, doesn't know what critical race theory is. He thought a 200 and something like TikTok was viral. He's enough of a boomer that he might have actually believed that, though. I don't necessarily know if that was a deliberate lie. It was probably a deliberate lie. And he's a boomer, we know that. We know that Michael Knowles will actively advocate for the use of government power to restrict the range of things that are taught to children. He obviously has a problem with this being done by the left, no doubt. And he thinks that you should be fired or silenced, or the way he said that she was advocating for breaking the law kind of sounded like he might want her arrested. Maybe a little bit of an implication there. For protesting something that you don't like, which, Governor DeSantis, the governor whose policies that teacher was complaining about, was also the person who essentially tried to make it gives a little more legal leeway to people who drive over protesters with a car. Essentially, Governor DeSantis is pro-terrorism. I imagine with the added implication that the protesters would be like BLM protesters, and the driver would be like some sort of patriotic American trying to rid Florida of commie filth. I don't really know. Anyway, scary times we're living in. Terrifying, even. I hope everyone is doing well. I don't really know how to close out this segment without without the warm, comforting embrace of chat, being next to me. So all I can really say is that you should go and subscribe. I can do this very quickly, you see. Subscribe to my super cool second channel, because cool stuff's going to be put there. You know how it is, all right? Yeah, look at that. There's another channel called The Vosh Pit that actually gets recommended when you search Vosh Pit, because their channel has videos and mine doesn't. And I love them very much, but we'll get that all worked out soon. So you should subscribe. Look at that. 21,300 subscribers with no videos. That must be some good future content.